Hello, I hope you're having a great day. Welcome back to our video assessing the impact of autonomous vehicles on sustainable development. What are we going to be focusing on today, Emily?
Hello. We have chosen to investigate the environmental impact of autonomous vehicles, providing both positive and negative aspects of this technological development.
Yes, we'll be analysing and evaluating the effects of this technological change by using evidence from academics and case studies to support this.
From this analysis, we'll then be making conclusions about whether autonomous vehicles will be beneficial or not for the environment within our analysis of the impact that they have in promoting sustainable development.
Yes, it's important to remember that sustainability does not just consider environmental implications, but also social and economic perspectives, as highlighted by the Sustainable Development Goals.
So, in order to cover all bases, we've decided to cover these in other videos so we can take a holistic view of the sustainability effects of autonomous vehicles.
So leading on from that, let's talk about the first area in which autonomous vehicles will have an impact on the environment. What do you think will be one of their defining features?
I think a key feature of autonomous vehicles is that they have the ability to platoon.
Yes, this means that autonomous vehicles can travel directly behind one another, due to the reaction times of humans standing at 1.3 seconds, which is significantly slower than computers.
This platooning will have major environmental benefits as it produces a 10% saving in the amount of emissions expelled. So Luke, do you know why this occurs?
Yes, it's because these vehicles can travel closely behind one another. This reduces the amount of drag and therefore increases the energy efficiency of the vehicles. This means there is less fuel or energy required, and so the amount of emissions falls.
Yes, and this platooning can have significant benefits for the ways in which vehicles travel, as they take up less space on the road, helping to reduce congestion.
Yeah, and with 93% of collisions being the result of human error, autonomous vehicles will help to reduce the amount of collisions, which will decrease the amount of queues which we have on the road.
Exactly. And with all the vehicles being digitally connected to one another, opportunities are created for the autonomous vehicles to decide which routes will have the shortest driving time, thereby finding the most efficient route which the vehicles can take.
Yes, and this leads to energy intensity savings of 20% through reducing congestion on the road, and it will enable people to reach their destinations in shorter periods of time, which will have social and economic benefits, which we talk about in other videos.
This congestion will be reduced further by the potential for autonomous vehicles at intersections. Traditional transport vehicles are responsible for a large amount of environmental degradation at intersections.
So why does this environmental degradation occur, Emily?
This is due to the deceleration of vehicles as they slow down to a stop, and the acceleration as they start up again, such as when vehicles reach a traffic light.
So how will autonomous vehicles change this system?
Well, MIT have developed a slot-based system where every vehicle is connected. This could dramatically reduce queues and waiting times and/or even prompt the death of the traffic light. This diagram conveys how the system will work.
I see, so it's important to remember that this sort of system would only work if every vehicle was autonomous, right?
Exactly. So creating this slot-based system will have a long-term effect, as we will experience a lag time before it can be implemented. And as well as this, we will need to ensure that the only vehicles on the road are autonomous, which will consume a large amount of natural resources in the production process.
Interesting stuff. So we've talked a lot about the potential benefits which autonomous vehicles could have on the environment. But in order for us to critically analyse this matter, let's look at some of the drawbacks.
Yes, so one of the deciding factors on how much fuel or energy is used, and therefore hence emissions, is how the weight of vehicles will change when they become autonomous. So Luke, do you think they'll be heavier or lighter than the traditional vehicles that we see on the road today?
That's a really interesting question, and one in which there's some uncertainty over. This is because the additional weight of the onboard computers and sensors could lead to an increase in overall weight, as found by the University of Michigan. However, this study did not account for the potential for vehicle lightweighting, which is when safety equipment is removed, causing a significant reduction in the weight of the vehicle. This could cause a net loss of the weight by 75%, and with a 6 to 8% reduction in environmental impact resulting from each 10% fall in weight.
One significant area in which autonomous vehicles will have degrading impact is if they dramatically increase the amount of vehicles on the road. This could happen because individuals will have more opportunity to access vehicles, which we talk about in the social aspects of autonomous vehicles video.
This is expected to increase the use of vehicles by around 70%, which may result in a greater amount of emissions depending on how the vehicles are powered. With petrol and diesel vehicles increasing emissions and the impact of electric cars depending on how the electricity is generated.
Yes, with electric vehicles, it's always important to consider how the electricity is produced when assessing its environmental impact, as well as considering the environmental cost of the raw materials needed to produce the electric vehicles. This could include the lithium-ion battery, and it's estimated that producing an electric vehicle adds on average twice as much to global warming as opposed to a normal combustion engine car, with 40% of that increase being attributed to battery manufacturing.
Car use could also increase if it means that individuals live further away from their frequently visited destinations, such as workplaces. This is because their journeys are shorter due to faster travelling vehicles and there being less congestion.
This in turn could increase demand for vehicles to rise by around 50% because the accessibility of autonomous vehicles allows people to live further away from their frequently visited destinations. This may also decrease the use of public transport, which will have negative environmental consequences due to the raw materials needed to make autonomous vehicles having an environmental strain.
Yes, and there still remains some uncertainty over what will happen to the demand for vehicles, as there is the possibility for an increase in demand or a decrease in demand due to the advent of the shared autonomous vehicles.
Yes, so one shared autonomous vehicle could replace around 11 conventional vehicles, which would have significant environmental benefits.
This is because shared autonomous vehicles could create an opportunity of car sharing services. Many individuals could sign up due to the cost of this being cheaper than owning a car by around $6,000, which would act as a significant incentive for individuals to uptake these car sharing schemes.
And in addition to this, there is the possibility of driverless taxis, which would mean that with no drivers to pay, this could pave a way for much cheaper taxi fares. With this increased incentive to use a taxi, this may reduce car ownership.
Yes, and this highlights the uncertainty over how many autonomous vehicles will be on the road in the future, and the change in volume will ultimately determine the environmental impact.
This rise of autonomous vehicles could lead to changes to the way in which our cities are structured, which could have positive environmental impacts.
Firstly, with parking areas making up 31% of central business districts in cities worldwide, this highlights the scale of this potential land use change.
This is because, with the rise in shared autonomous vehicles, it could mean that there is very little need for parking areas because once a journey has been made and somebody is being dropped off, the car will go off to collect someone for its next journey.
There could also be a change in the use of roads, due to the roads being dedicated to autonomous vehicles, which are travelling at higher speeds, platooning, and potentially less vehicles, which could mean there's less need for road space.
This could mean that roads and car parks become brownfield sites, which are used for environmental conservation, and depending on the management of this newly available land, beneficial environmental results could be numerous.
Yes, there could be significant environmental benefits through setting up areas dedicated to urban trees and forests with ecosystem services, which these areas provide, including improving air quality, preventing the formation of heat islands, creating habitats for animals, and preserving watersheds.
Overall, the transition towards a society which has autonomous vehicles will have significant environmental benefits. This is due to there being fewer emissions released from vehicles because of platooning, less congestion and more efficient routes.
There is also the possibility that through making vehicles more accessible and vehicle use increasing, that autonomous vehicles will have negative environmental impacts. However, depending on the scale of how autonomous vehicles are rolled out, this could lead to a shared autonomous vehicle system, which significantly reduces the amount of vehicles on the road. There is also uncertainty over what will happen to the weight of the vehicles, with the possibility of heavier vehicles due to the computers and sensors, or vehicle lightweighting due to there being less of a need for safety equipment.
So while there is still some uncertainty, The transition to fully autonomous vehicles within our society will in the long term lead to a more environmentally sustainable society. Thank you for watching our video. We hope you've enjoyed it and now feel compelled to enter into the debate. Please like and subscribe and drop any further questions or comments down below.